Periphery Synthetic is a unique and fascinating game that is technically a Metroidvania, but you'd never think of it as one. But it's entirely playable with or without the graphics you see on your screen. And that's because the periphery it's talking about is audio and sound and the perception of it. This game is totally accessible for anyone who has no sight, partially sighted or totally blind. And it's because everything in this game triggers some kind of sound, and the overall experience is like a hypnotic, throbbing, ambient drone synth. And depending on what buttons you press and where you're doing and what's around you, different synthy triggers start to trigger around you. And no more is this more important than with the echolocation scanner that you use with the mech that you have when you land on planet 1 of the planetary solar system that you go to wander around. Every time you press this button, a little echolocation goes out, and it will trigger lots of different beeps and sounds and audio pops. And these all stand for various different types of materials that you'll want to collect as you explore these procedurally generated planets. They will, as you can see by the kind of mesh prototype wireframey dotty graphics, have peaks and troughs, and you'll have initially like just the ability to walk forward and turn around, but very quickly by gathering all of these resources you start to add on additional functionalities to your kind of mechy system as you go. The first will be some jumps, which can become a double jump or a triple jump. Later on you can then add thrusters to really like start to pull yourself around. You can kind of hover in the air, or as you're going through the air you can start to change trajectory as you go to make things a bit more precise as you move around. The velocity of how you move can be sped up, as well as the brakes can be put on and made harder. And then you can start to, over time, add on other things like a distillery centre that starts to generate some of the resources for you automatically over time, which then allows you to upgrade some more of your other things, like being able to get onto wheels so that you can speed up and gather the momentum over time, or the ability to ascend up walls and climb, that kind of stuff. You can still get around all of these levels just by the sheer movement of going around and jumping, but as you go from World 1, which is like a sand duney Mars environment, to World 2, which is more like a underwater Jupiter, for want of a better phrase, with lots of caves and caverns to discover, and I adore the art style of the spectrum of colours with all of the dots of the landscape around you. And then World 3 is like a desolate but low gravity moon crater environment, and by the time you get there, if you've picked up all of your different materials, you'll have this mech that can go at massive speeds, triple jump, and then booster thrust its way around, be flying around everywhere. You'll have a magnet around you that will draw materials towards you. It's really, really fascinating to watch how your mech, or whatever it is that you're using, you never see it, kind of flies around the different environment, unlocking all of these different milestones, perceiving parts of lore, and finding new doors to move back and forth between different planetaries in the solar system as you go. Now, the game only has 3 mass environments for you to play with, but this meditative, weird, abstract way of using sound to really tune in and hone in on your audio senses was so relaxing and hypnotic for me. This does so much with really so little, and I totally understand that this will not be for everyone whatsoever, but I got quite intrigued wandering off towards one direction and then finding that there was like a weird little structure or a collection of mountains that had like weird indents in them that would then trigger some lore. In the second world, I found a little underground cave system that just seemed to be like I was falling into a black hole, but down at the bottom there was some interesting like little upgrades for me in there, and some more lore to unlock. And it's small little tiny rewards, but the fact that it's constantly always just drip feeding interesting little either graphical anomalies or weird sounds that you're thinking, well, what does that mean? I want to go towards it. Go towards the light. It was just such a weird and inviting experience. This will definitely be for fans of walking simulators. Anyone that enjoys drone and ambient music, I think will find this like a little mini playground. You can press, I was playing on with my Xbox controller, so I pressed X and it means that you kind of stand still and put in your like anchors into the ground, and you can twiddle around your right analog stick clockwise or anti-clockwise, and a synth will go like into a guitar solo, and it does very little except that, but you can then start to almost like harmonize with the world around you. I know that sounds like really, really, really pretentious, and the general aesthetic of this game is a little bit pretentious, but I love that kind of stuff. So I was in my element. This does more than the sum of its parts. Niche, yes. The developer says they're going to add more planets in over time, which I think is fantastic because I'd like to go off and explore some more. And I can't wait to keep going and diving back in again and just having a little wander around. It calmed me down, and yeah, it seems quite playful too. So Periphery Synthetic, a weird walking simulator Metroidvania that I never knew I needed. Great fun. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/Higher Network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.